Hi, Leo Sun and Rising. Welcome to your December 2024 Astro Update. It's Rena here. So, for the first few weeks of the month, we're going to have Sagittarius season. So, we have a fellow fire sign energy, and this will trine your sun or ascendant. So, things can manifest easier when when the transiting sun and your placements are in this kind of easy flow. So on the first of the month, we have a new moon at 9 degrees of Sagittarius, and this is falling in the house that you rule, the fifth house. So let me just say that of all the signs, I wouldn't be surprised if Leo people have the most fun during holiday season when there are personal planets in Sagittarius because you can just enjoy the fifth house can be about pleasure and enjoyments, and with a new moon here that can certainly be something that you are engaged in, and maybe even like with love. I mean, this is the house of love and creativity, so it could be something along those lines where a new love has shown up in your life. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily doing anything with this person. As a matter of fact, this might be somebody from your past because Mercury is retrograding through this house as the month begins, too, in Sagittarius. So keep that in mind. But in any case, you may be finding a new hobby, something that's enjoyable to do when you're not working, or maybe you're starting a business. Of course, it is Mercury retrograde, but who knows? Maybe you've come up with an idea for a business. On the 6th of the month, Mars goes retrograde at 6 degrees of your sign. So if you're an early born Leo sun or up to 6 degrees of ascendant, this will be in your first house. For the rest of you, this will be in your 12th house. And actually, it's going to go back into Cancer. So if you do, you're going to have to look at your individual chart to see exactly where this is going to fall. I'm going to just speak about the first house at the moment because I'm not going to get into the Cancer right now. And I'm going to just pretend that everybody, this is happening in your first house. This is, I feel like when someone has Mars in the retrograding in the first house, it's kind of like anything that you have been trying to do to promote yourself, or to maybe it could even be as simple as the first house can be your body. So if you've been doing some kind of workout where you can't do it for a while, there might be some outer reason why you can't do it, and it could be rather frustrating, but you have to do inner work, if you will, or if you're trying to promote yourself in some way. Mars retrograde can lead to frustration for everyone, it'll depend on what area of life it is, but just if we want to characterize it in a more general term, we could just say frustration. And for you, this can be kind of like a very basic thing because Leo people love to express themselves. And the first house is about the self. So you may feel like you have to kind of put yourself on a shelf in a sense. And this will depend about what else is going on in your life, how this will play out. So let's say that you have started a business and you're trying to promote yourself and what's the term, like kind of, there's another, I was going to say publicize yourself, but there's another term that I'm thinking of. Just kind of put yourself out there, and for some reason it's not working. The Mars retrograde is going to last until, I think it's like February 23rd of next year, something along those lines. So it's going to be there for like 2.5 months. that's not really that long in the grand scheme of things, but you may find that any effort that you make to promote yourself, to push forward on something that involves you as the, I don't know what you would call it, the approach and that sort of thing, like you're the main character in whatever it is that you're doing, it may not work. And as a matter of fact, there are astrologers that advise not trying to launch anything during Mars retrogrades, just like with Mercury retrogrades. Now, I always advise people to be cautious about these blanket statements because there may be extenuating circumstances that make it a ripe opportunity to do something. And even if it's true that it's harder to push through, it might be worth the effort. So I don't want to just kind of parrot what other people are saying and just agreeing with them because I haven't kind of like tried to buck that system and see if maybe that's not true. I think that we should, tune into our intuition. But what I'm saying is that if you feel like you're being thwarted in self expression, don't get caught up in that, like, oh my gosh, this is forever, because it's not. And I will say that you're going to have Mars in this first house, in this 12th house, for months on end until the spring, or, in the northern hemisphere of 2025, maybe like April, May. Actually, I think Mars comes out of its shadow. It goes back to that 6-degree mark May 2nd. Okay, so just keep that in mind because you might be doing a lot of inner work, especially when Mars goes back into Cancer. On the 7th, Neptune goes direct at 27 degrees of Pisces, and Venus goes into your opposite sign of Aquarius. Okay, well, Pisces for you is the 8th house. Leo, you have had Neptune here for many years. I think I would say about 13 years. Neptune, when Neptune went retrograde, I'm trying to remember, I think it was July 2nd or something like that. So it's been like over 5 months that Neptune has been retrograde. Of course, it is a generational planet. So we look more to the house to see how it affects people specifically. And this is the 8th house. This is Scorpio's house in astrology. So when it goes direct, it can allow you to tune once again, really be inspired by metaphysical pursuits. Okay. Now, the reason I say this is that when Neptune went retrograde, it was almost at the 0 degree of Aries. It was like 29 degrees, 50 something minutes. Okay. So it might have even been 59 minutes. I'm not sure, but it didn't quite get there. Now, it will in 2025, but it's not there yet. When it went retrograde, there may have been something 8th house related that was disillusioning to you, a disillusionment, okay? And this is one of those things that can actually be a blessing in disguise because you've had Neptune here, like I said, for probably, well, it depends on your individual chart, but the transit has been in Pisces, which is the sign that Neptune rules, since 2011, I believe. And that means that that's a significant amount of time for somebody to have it in this particular house, because this is the house of, besides other people's money, but that in itself can be something that is very, this is a house of trauma. So anything, including other people's money, there could be trauma involved in that, an illusion involved in that, When Neptune is transiting your 8th house, your partners might be doing crap with money that you know nothing about and you find it out. And some of you may have had something like that, where you found out that your partner has a gambling addiction, or they were just spending money like water, and you thought that um, you thought they had a lot of money in their bank account. Maybe they even misrepresented themselves in terms of their net worth or whatever, and it impacts you because of that. But also, this is the house of your spiritual evolution, I would call it, or it's your personal alchemy. It's a house of transformation. So we talk about shadow work with the eighth house, and Leo is a sign that is very gregarious and kind of like, because you're an extrovert, you may feel discomfort about really being by yourself and really tapping into some of the things that are not really pleasant, maybe that have happened to you or that you're feeling. And it's so much easier for a Leo person to be the life of the party. Okay. So you may have had some experiences the past few months where you've had to kind of face that shadow. And now you're going to focus on other things. This can be very good for spiritual advancement. If you are into astrology, you may feel guided to study astrology during this transit, I would say. It is going, like I said, it's going into Aries in 2025, but it is going to retrograde back into Pisces then as well, just because it's so slow as it advances. Okay, on the same date, Venus goes into your seventh house. So Venus in the seventh can be harmony with a significant other. Now, not to say that before then you're having all these problems, but you have to remember, I'll just say that as of this recording, when I'm recording this, Pluto is poised to go into Aquarius. Again, this is the second time that it's doing so. And when it goes this time, it's going to go for good. I mean, well, for the whole of the transit in Aquarius, which means that we're talking another 2 decades. So you'll never see this transit you'll never see the transit of Pluto in the 6th house again, but now it's in the 7th house. It's like, okay, now what? Okay. From the frying pan to the fire, right? Because this is the house of relationship. Now, I will say, on the positive end, Pluto in the 7th house can be the person who, let's say you meet your person, you meet your significant other during this transit, and that person transforms your life. They have such an impact on you. I will say that it is important that when you have Pluto in the 7th house, that you are very, very careful about who you, I was going to say hook up with. It's not hook up. It's who you move in with, who you tie the knot with, because if it's on the lower vibrational side of things, it can be somebody who is, obsessed, a stalker, like a scorpionic type of person. Nothing against Scorpio, but you know what I mean, that lower nature of Scorpio that can be very obsessive and controlling. Okay, so you don't want to get with that type of person. Really, this will change your whole concept of relationship. And it all depends on how you play it. If you're consciously entering into this transit knowing exactly what you're dealing with, it won't be a problem, because you'll see it a mile away if you happen to come across somebody like that. And by the way, I mean, if you're currently hitched, if you're currently in that type of relationship, you may have to deal with power struggles. But power struggles isn't necessarily a bad thing, because what you do is you see where you're being too controlling and where you are being too acquiescent. Where are you tolerating things that you shouldn't tolerate, but where are you controlling when you need to be more cooperative? So I'm just talking about that, but with this Venus transit, because I got off on a tangent there. Venus is, and the reason I did is because Pluto will be here at that time in that seventh house. Now, Venus here is, like I said, it can be very harmonious for relationships. If you are somebody, maybe you get married during this time. Of course, it's during Mars retrograde, but what the hell? It's in Mars is in your sign. Throw caution to the wind, right? No, I'm just kidding. But just even this is just good for romantic situations. But here's one thing. First of all, Venus, I mean, the seventh house is also your any kind of legal matters, and Venus can be money, so you may receive money because of some legal matter. And it's also the house of public relations. So this is kind of what I was trying to get at when I was talking about Mars retrograding in the first house. I was talking about self-promotion and how that you may feel thwarted in some way for some reason. Maybe there are some circumstances that keep you from pushing forward on trying to get your name out, promoting yourself for whatever reason you need to do so. But this is this might balance that out, and maybe it could be something that is very positive for that. On the 15th, we have a full moon at 23 degrees of Gemini, and Mercury goes direct at 6 degrees of Sag. Okay. It's very interesting how we have these double transits on certain dates. I think that is always, I don't feel that that's random, or that those two transits don't have anything to do with one another. So let's just unpack this. The full moon in Gemini forms a nice angle to Leo called a sextile, 60 degrees apart, and 2 signs away. And this is coming from your 11th house, okay? So the 11th house, okay, well, this is something that I think may be important for your finances, because the 11th house is the house of gains. And that means from, the profits from your business, from your career, whatever it is, the work that you're doing. And a full moon can bring things to fruition. So it could be very positive for money matters on that front. Full moons can also bring things to a close or a crisis point. So with the with the 11th house, we're talking about friendships, group associations. You may find that you're not vibing with certain people. Now, because Neptune is in this 8th house, and there could be, I feel like for some people, when Neptune is in the 8th house, you may be even getting involved with some kind of spiritual studies, and that could involve other people. And maybe that kind of contrast between the people that you're hanging out with and the people that you're getting together with on a spiritual level, you see that contrast very, it's very clear that there is a contrast there. Also, this is the house of hopes and wishes, so you may have one of those wishes fulfilled. On the same day, Mercury goes direct at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. This was something that I had alluded to earlier, but this is the house that you rule in astrology, Leo. And so you may have heard back from somebody in your past, as I stated, and maybe this was some kind of a fling. Fifth house can be love, but it can be recreational sex. It could be somebody you just had a brief dalliance with, and they contact you again, and maybe there's a rethinking of that. Like, hey, maybe there's something here. However, what's interesting is that Venus in Aquarius in that seventh house, if that was, I'm not saying that you necessarily were having an affair. Maybe it was all on the mental level or the emotional level, like an emotional affair. And maybe you realize that it was all kind of a fantasy. Because when Venus is in that seventh house, it's, to me, if you do have a significant other, but you were kind of like flirting with somebody else, maybe you didn't take it all the way, but you just had that kind of emotional affair, maybe you realized how lucky you are in your relationship, and you kind of like close the door on that other thing. On the 21st, we have a winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. I like to say winter solstice when it is, for me, it's summer down under. And basically, it's when the sun goes into Capricorn. But I love the symbolism in the northern hemisphere of the sun regaining strength. The lowest point of the sun, and then the rebirth of the sun. And then think of the birth of the SON on Christmas Day. Very interesting timing, is it not? So power period, because the sun is going into a cardinal sign. On the 29th on the west coast, and the 30th elsewhere, we have a black moon, or otherwise known as a Lilith moon, at 9 degrees of Capricorn. So for Leo, this is your 6th house. This new moon could be a new job. It could be, and it's supposed to be more potent, or any kind of intentions that are set are more, potent, if you believe in that kind of thing. But in any case, it is in that 6th house. It can also be your daily schedule, like if you are retooling it somehow, rethinking it, revising it, or there's some kind of change in your schedule. It's your health. Maybe you change your health regimen. And actually, that was another thing I wanted to say about Mars in the 1st house in your sign, is that something may prevent you from working out. And maybe you're like, okay, well, what else can I do? I'm going to look at my diet, or I'm going to look at my daily habits and see, because I can't work out right now. Maybe, you might have a specific reason why you can't, but you can do other things. And that's not going to be everybody, but in case that's you, this new moon, the second new moon in a month, could be, that's in your house of health, could also be like you looking at these things and kind of seeing like what it is that you want to kind of rework. Okay. But if you are in between jobs, maybe that's a time when you get a call that you're hired. That's what I have for you, Leo. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I have package deals. My deep dive reading is a popular choice because it's an hour of natal chart analysis and an hour of transits through the end of 2025 for a special price. And those two types of readings go together. And I also have a reading called The Whole Enchilada, which is those two readings plus a full-length tarot reading, if you like tarot readings too. And I have individual readings like career, life path type of readings, love readings, and whatnot. You can find out more information at the link below Thanks for listening. Bye.